Alright, so this is the coolant pump that I've come up with for my lathe, alright? This thing is just a sump pump or bilge pump for a boat. Pretty straightforward. Let me get the camera set up here. Bear with me. So this pump gets mounted in this doohickey right here. Okay, it sucks it up through the bottom, obviously. This is your outlet. And this is the reservoir that I'm going to have my coolant set up in for the lathe. It's just a plastic container. It's got, the lid has a rubber seal around it. It's actually a pretty nice box. I got two of them. I got one for my lathe and one for my CNC mill. I got it from, where did I get it from? Container store. You wouldn't think going into container store would be fun for most men, not to be stereotypical, but they actually have a lot of nice storage stuff there. So maybe recommend that next time you and your wife are out shopping or what have you. But anyway, it's a pretty cool store. They got lots of bins, and once you get past the fact that it's not exactly intended for workshops or what have you, it could be beneficial. Anyway, that's where I got that from. It's a little bit more robust than your typical storage container you'd find at like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. And it's just the right size for me. I don't know what the capacity is on it. I think it was like, let's see. Oh, it's made in the USA. That's a good thing. I can't remember. I think it was like 11 gallons maybe? I don't know. Anyway, what I've got to figure out and what I'm going to do here is this pump is just going to sit in the bottom of that basically. And I'll run my wiring and my hoses and stuff out of the top. All I'm going to have is a feed hose coming out of this pump and then a return line coming out of the drip pan of the lathe. What I want to do, I don't want to drill any holes or anything in the bottom of this thing, obviously, so I don't have any leaks down the road for coolant. So this pump is pretty lightweight. It doesn't have much of a base on it. You can see it's removable, but the base is just plastic. It's meant to be mounted somewhere. It's got some mounting holes. So this is an actual, if you'll remember me saying in another video, I'm a pipe fitter, pipe welder by trade, and this is what we call just a socket weld cap for some 2-inch pipe. It's forged, it's not cast, so it's actually decent steel. You can see I've turned it down in the lathe for some reason. I don't know what I was doing or what I'd planned to do, but it was in the old scrap drawer. It's heavy. It weighs, I don't know, 2 to 3 pounds probably. I'm not real good at that, but it's got some heft to it. So what I'm going to do is just drill and tap a couple holes right in the end there, and this will sit in the bottom of my coolant container. And you know, it's going to be elevated obviously, but that's fine. My coolant level will be much higher than that, and it should never really get below. So this will do two things. It'll let my pump have some weight so that and it should never really get below. So this will do two things. It'll let my pump have some weight so that it stays secure and not flopping around, and it'll also get the pump off the very bottom in case there's any kind of chips or crud. I mean, I know there will be eventually as as the stuff settles down. It'll kind of have a film on the bottom of this container, and this will keep fresh coolant hopefully to the pump. So that's what I'm about to do. Just giving you a heads up. I'll stop the video now and we'll start it back up once we make a little progress. Thanks. Get a little bit of oil. Alright, there's my two holes. I'm just going to use some M5 bolts, some metric bolts that I just happened to find. They were short enough, whatever, they fit the bill. So I'll tap that in just a minute and we'll be good to go. Okay, just a quick little deal here. Obviously you guys know how to tap holes. I'm not gonna do a video about that, but I wanted to point out this ratcheting tap holder. It's from Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight tools, I know, be careful. Every now and then you find something that's pretty damn decent at Harbor Freight, and this is one of them. And I think part of the reason is because, let's see if I can get you to focus. I don't know if you can see that. And I haven't figured out how to focus this stupid thing yet. Anyway, this word right here says Taiwan. It's a little bit different than China when it comes to quality of tools, believe it or not, at least in my experience. I'm not saying they don't make crap tools in Taiwan, because I'm sure they do, just like they make good tools in China sometimes. Anyway, this is one of the ones that works. I don't know what it is at Harbor Freight, maybe 20 bucks or so, I guess. But it works really well. I mean, I've done some pretty big taps with this thing, and it's held up to, I don't know, I've had it about a year now, and it works. So, if you don't have one, go out and get one next time you're at Harbor Freight. I won't tell anybody. It's okay. Anyway, it works really well. Let me get these holes tapped and we'll get back to it. Alright, so we got that little part done. Just show you. You can see down in there the two M5 by 0.08 or by 0.8 metric screws that I did. They go all the way through. Like I said, this was just a cap. It's got some heft to it. I got the base mounted to it. This thing pops on like so. Bear with me. There we go. So that just sticks in there. Like I said, it will sit inside of this thing, probably in the corner somewhere out of the way. I'm going to have like some sort of plug out here, and I'm going to have it where I can unhook the hoses fairly easily too, so I can just pull this whole bin out, clean the coolant or clean the tank, you know, replace the coolant, whatever I got to do, any kind of maintenance. I'll make it as easily as done as possible, but that's pretty much it on that part. Let's see what we can come up with on the hoses. So just a quick update on the coolant system. Sorry, the battery died in the old camera. Seeing as how it's been 8 years since we've used this thing, I'm surprised it was able to hold a charge at all. Anyway, I was able to get it all mounted, and I had to make this little adapter type thing. It's just a step down. Had a huge outlet come out on this thing, so I was able to just throw some steel in the lathe real quick and turn down a basically a double-ended barb, one's from one size to another, and I'll put some hose clamps on it and then attach my actual feed hose to the smaller end here. And it should be good to go. I got the ends, the plug, soldered on the wiring on this end as well as the lathe. I may get some new hose for this thing. This stuff's pretty old, kind of stiff. It's, you know, it's braided hose. It's decent stuff. I'm sure it'll work just fine, but might as well replace it while I'm at it. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'll just use it. I don't know. Anyway, it's pretty much ready to be finished now. I just ordered some Qualicum 251C from Tormach. That's what I'm going to run in my CNC machine, and I figure I might as well run it in both. So that's where I'm at, just waiting on it to come in. Once I get the hoses and all hooked up where it's supposed to be, she'll be good to go. Here's the big chip pan for the lathe. Basically all the coolant runs down into this hole. For some reason it was raised up, so I had to do some persuading with the hammer to get it back down to the lowest point, or what I believe is close to the lowest point. So it's all ready to go. It's just got a hose on the bottom side of it that'll get, you know, put into that bucket basically. The bucket just sits right under it more or less. So all the coolant will run down into that. But it's ready to go. And I'm going to put it back on the lathe because I just got finished making a giant mess underneath the lathe with chips because I had no chip pan in it and kind of forgot about it. Anyway, that's the way it goes. So I finally got the coolant system hooked up and working. I still needed to fine tune it a little bit and work out some of the details, but it seems to be working well. I got some Qualichem 251C. You can see that white milky looking stuff down there in the bucket. That's what that is. Let me go over here and show you the jug if you haven't ever seen it. It's supposedly really good stuff. I plan on using it in the CNC machine. That's why I bought it. But it works really well. And I can buy it by a gallon, which is a big plus for me because I don't need 55-gallon drums or even 5-gallon drums really. This 1 gallon will make 20 gallons of, roughly 20 gallons of coolant. So I figure I've got, I think 3 gallons over here on the lathe. I might add another gallon just because, and I'll probably do, you know, it's the same type of tub on the CNC machine, so it'll probably be the same thing. So I should be able to get 2 full tanks, and then I'll have enough to do a clean out and refill out of 1 gallon, which isn't bad. I think it was like 30 bucks a gallon maybe. But anyway, it's working. It's got the little the 500 Piranha bilge pump from, I think Walmart sells them. Plenty of places sell them. I got it on Amazon. Just a few bucks. Not a whole lot of pressure. It doesn't really need a whole lot of pressure, in my opinion anyway, for a lathe. I'm really just going to have the coolant just kind of dripping on the tool probably most of the time anyway, because I don't feel like making a giant mess with this shit slinging everywhere. But if you'll remember, I have this motor controller over here. I think I'm just going to run it at 100 for now because it's not a huge pump. It has a little problem, you know, maintaining prime, I guess, with anything under 80 on that scale. So I'll probably keep it at 100 there and just throttle it back here on the old ball or gate valve here. But you can see it there. That's full flow, which I mean that's more than enough. It'll make a mess for sure. You know, it's going into the pan down there, and I'm sure it's splashing everywhere. But what I probably will end up doing is running it. Let me dial it back a little bit here. I really just don't need a stream, you know, much bigger than that. I mean, you can see my finger behind it. It's really not much to it. I just want to basically drip it on the tool itself, and maybe some on the part if I'm turning slow enough. But if I'm turning anything fast, I'm probably not gonna put coolant on the part itself, just because it's gonna make a giant mess. And I don't feel like dealing with that. But anyway, it's like I said, it's together, it's working, it's doing what I need it to do. Turn that off. We're going to turn the power off. You know, the pan, the only thing I have to do really, as far as fine tuning it, is maybe get some better drainage. It's draining into the pan. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it's not very efficient in terms of how it drains. So I may make a new pan, or I may just live with it and see how it goes. Anyway, it's working. It's together. I unfortunately got it done after I did the big huge lathe project that I just did with making all my tool holders, which I probably could have used it then, because I got pretty hot a few times on the part and the tool itself. But anyway, hindsight, it is what it is. It's working now. It's ready for the next project, so we'll see how it goes. I'll do an update if I need to, but I think that pretty much concludes it. Like I said, it's just a really simple bilge pump, and it works pretty well. Thanks for watching. See ya.